So good morning. And my thanks to Father Piavone and Dr. Rita and Judy for the guidance for today's CST presentation. And our healing prayers go out to Father Michael for his upcoming surgery, I believe, and Brother John, who looks really great. So Best also thanks the clergy, the office staff, the music department, the grounds persons for their assistance throughout the years with Best. And I will be talking about Best in a few minutes. I'd like to first read a quotation from creation from Job 12:7-9. But ask the animals, and they will tell you, the birds of the heavens, and they will tell you, or the bushes of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the sea will declare to you, who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? I love that. Found that. So now a little about me. I'll try to be quick with this. I was born in San Francisco, as were my father and his mother, as a third generation Californian. I resided in the state about a year. My father was in the US Navy during World War II at the time, and he had managed hotels in Hawaii previously. We moved to Waikiki after the war and took up residence in the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, where my father was the general manager. I was 5 years old, and we lived in the hotel for 7 years, then moved to a house on the grounds for 3 years. Hotel living was quite an experience, but my father was fairly strict, and my two brothers didn't get into too much trouble. I loved Hawaii. I loved the flowers, the coconut trees, the beaches, the waves, the mountains, the waterfalls, the volcanoes, and the Hawaiian food. One of my favorite places to visit on the hotel grounds was the very large greenhouse stocked with beautiful tropical plants used to decorate the hotel and add to the then, in those days, sprawling vegetation surrounding the hotel. This is where I developed a connection with gardening and caring for the earth in a spiritual way. After Hawaii, we moved to Florida for 2 years on Bal Harbor, and then to Bermuda, where my father managed the Castle Harbor Hotel. I found out recently that I believe Dor and Robert Brown stayed at the hotel while we were there. I believe that's true. After graduating from a British high school, I only went 1 year. I attended what is now Colby Sawyer College in New London, New Hampshire. I wanted to experience some winter. I studied literature, creative writing, and journalism. After graduation, I returned to Bermuda and was in charge of the hotel's publicity department. And then about a year later, I was employed by Air Canada. The cost of traveling off and on Bermuda added up, and I love to travel. I visited 10 countries in 8 years, my years with Air Canada. And I have John Dickey in common connection with that. He was a vice president, but after my marriage in Bermuda to an American whose family lived in Bermuda, but we were married in Bermuda, he was career Navy, and we moved to Maryland in the Washington, D.C. area. After 3 years, we were stationed in Okinawa, Japan. We did much Asian travel from there. When we returned to Maryland, we welcomed 2 daughters. We moved to Sarasota in 1983 and soon became members of St. Boniface Church. And I continued with writing and wrote 3 columns in the Pelican Press, plus being a proofreader. So now we're going to talk about some issues, environmental issues, but we're going to talk about BEST and how BEST was started and what we stand for. And we welcome people to become involved with BEST, and we have loyal supporters, I must say. So BEST is Boniface Eco-Stewardship Team. And BEST was organized at St. Boniface in 2003, we believe, with a small group. Kay McGimsey became the leader early on and served expertly expertly until her death on July 14th, 2013. She was a wonderful woman, loved by all, and a true believer in enhancing and saving the environment. Among the early members were Donna Grantham, Catherine Johnson, Connie McManus, and Sandy Wilbur. Donna, a master gardener, recalls the first gardening project on campus, the redesign of the planting in front of the church office. Kay and Donna would meet at 8 a.m. to weed and trim the new Florida native plant garden. I joined them some months later. It was a good time to get to know each other. I recall Father Copeland, as he entered the office more than once, saying, "I don't know why you're doing all this work. We have landscapers for that." He didn't know that we really enjoyed our early morning weeding sessions. Catherine Johnson remembers a major campus project, that of rehabbing the Healing Mission grounds. It was planned with the Healing Mission staff and volunteers, and we would prayerfully consider any changes, additions, and plant species for this spiritual site. The work on a suitable walkway for handicapped or wheelchair access to the back of the back garden on the koi pond, was a major consideration. So what is BEST? BEST is a group of parishioners who come together, and those who support our efforts, to explore how the St. Boniface community can impact our local environment. These responsibilities make use of available resources as an expression of our duty to be stewards of God's creation. We also give thanks for the beauty and wonders of our earth. We open each meeting with scripture, meditation, and prayer from the Green Bible Devotional, which is a marvelous book. We also have the Green Bible. Currently, we have 9 members who attend meetings: myself and co-chair Catherine Johnson, Donna Grantham, Ann Moffat, Ralph McImsey, Tony Consalvo, Wendy Marshall, and Catherine Oglesby. Connie McManus, Susan Zwackman, and Louise Pearson attend when possible. And Cindy Smith, Amy and Bob Farrell, and Nancy Scanlon, and Denise Mann receive emails from our meetings. We appreciate all the parishioners who participate in our programs and offerings. We were happy to have Meg Larrabee, Master Gardener, and Jennifer Parker help with planting of the raised beds for Betsy Danner's retirement gift plants. That was a lot of fun. BEST follows the Episcopal Ecological Network that coordinates with the Peace and Justice Ministries. Okay. The framework centers on reflection, education, and action. Through prayer and worship, education about reflection through prayer and worship, education through current environmental issues in our state and beyond, and action in ways that protect, heal, and honor the integrity of God's creation. BEST contributes to a creation-centered worship and program in our Creation Sunday celebration held on a Sunday in April, nearest Earth Day. A speaker is invited for a presentation following the service. Last month, we invited David Owen from Eco Global Farms. ECHO means Educational Concerns for Hunger organization. BEST sponsors a blessing of the animals held to celebrate all pets, and we've included a tarantula, some turtles, birds from Save Our Seabirds, white rats, guinea pigs, 2 of the sheriff's horses, plus the riders, lady riders, plus many, many canines and felines. This occasion is in honor of St. Francis of Assisi and is held in early October. BEST enjoys taking parishioners on field trips to places of environmental interest. Just some of our forays have been with, and they've been with guided tours, which we arrange, to the Florida House Institute, South Florida Museum, a hydroponic farm, Moat Marine Aquarium and Eco Boat Tour, Earthbox Garden Center, Eco Global Farm Tour, Sarasota Honey Company. And we really learned to appreciate the pollinator bees after I've been there twice now. Alma gives a wonderful talk, and you really appreciate what the pollinators are doing for our food sources in this country and around the world. So let's see, the Honey Company. And one of our favorite attractions is a winter trip, which we'll probably do that one next year again because it's so wonderful. Open November 1st to April 15th to the Manatee Viewing Center and Nature Preserve near the Tampa Electric Company at Apollo Beach. It includes a boardwalk with a 50-foot observation tower, trails, and butterfly gardens. It also has an excellent education center. This is the best place in Florida to see and learn about manatees. The plight of the warm-blooded manatees from starvation brought upon by human abuse of our waters via pollution is caused by loss of seagrass and oxygen. The access to warm springs has also been impeded by development. TECO, the Tampa Electric Company, provides the manatees clean, warm water from circulated cooling water in their plant. It's an amazing place. And I just read that they're going to extend their viewing platform to go out, not to impede the manatees in any way, although they like swimming around through there, so that it will be more accessible to the many people that go there. So BEST has instigated a lot of projects at St. Boniface. Some have been the LED lighting for the outside of our buildings. And we have helped with conservation water flow plumbing in the narthex restrooms. We had the front entrance circular garden refurbished. We have cleaned out and refurbished the St. Francis Garden near the bell tower area. We have calculated our carbon footprint and much more. And we will continue to do God's work in the environment. So that's a wrap up on BEST. And I'm just gonna do a little, we're gonna be early. The prayer that we like so much that we close our meetings with. Glorious Creator, thank you for the gift of this earth, for the trees, for the flowers, for the animals, for the stars and the seas and the sky. Thank you for entrusting us with the responsibility of loving, serving, and caring for your creation. Out of our great love for you, help us to restore what has been degraded. Help us to be the caretakers you created us to be. I think that's a wonderful prayer. So now, just a quick something on global warming, because we cannot ignore it. And being an environmental group, we do talk about it. We often will bring in news items, magazine articles, things we've read, and we will discuss these things at our meetings. So this is just something, and I wanted to just get something down about climate change, global warming, in a nutshell. So whether you believe in it or not, something has to be done about it. I am certainly no expert on global warming, that's for sure, or climate change, but I and BEST members feel an awareness and some form of action are needed by all, and we would be remiss if we did not investigate and recognize this growing threat. This is a big subject. It's not only local, it's worldwide, and there is a call for action. It is not just an environmental issue, as it involves the human race and all the animals on Earth. It affects our economies, our national security, and our health. What are the consequences of a warming world? You've heard them, you know them. Melting ice caps, rising sea levels, floods, intense heat waves, frequent fires, drought, threats to clean air and clean water. It was reported that July of last year, 2021, was the hottest month ever recorded on Earth. It's well known now that the activities of the human race do create global warming caused by greenhouse gases. You have heard of them also: burning of fossil fuels, oil and gas, cutting down forests, farming livestock, power plants, transport and vehicles, all increasing CO2 or carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, where it is trapped in increasing levels of heat. Debates on the topic are not effective, as the scientific community is virtually unanimous about the human cause of climate change. So what is being done, and what can we do? Fortunately, there are industries that are working on this negative impact on climate, developing new emission reduction technologies and clean energy alternatives. Federal policies to advance natural climate solutions through land management and restoration in farming, ranching, and reforesting, as CO2 is captured by the land and trees. I mean, the land and the trees take most of the CO, the carbon dioxide, out of our environment. An interesting carbon removal technology company announces the ability to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere with large air contactor systems. That was quite interesting. I read about that. But if you want to read about it, visit carbonengineering.com. Read. I know everyone reads about what's developing, but we must somehow slow down energy emissions. And I know the United States is doing a great job. However, other countries are having problems. So continue to practice the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. That helps. Look into hybrid or fuel efficient cars, use solar heat, change to LED lighting, use less plastic, support organizations and politicians who aim to protect our lands and waters, vote for green or sustainable policies. So read your Bible, pray, and believe in the wonder of the Spirit of God to help us. Amen. And that is it. So, any questions, Catherine? Can we go back to the crowd here?
Yes, I'll start in, Grace, as Brother John Brendan. And thank you for sharing. In terms of the Celtic spirituality, the early Celts recognized that God was present in all of creation and within us, and that we are part of creation in God in that manner. So it never surprises me that when people are out walking in nature, they feel a little bit closer to God. But one of the questions I have for you and for Best is that, we have snowbirds and new people moving into Florida all the time. And have you thought about offering some workshops for those coming in on using native vegetation when they're doing their gardens and setting up their, wherever they've moved into?
We have not thought about setting up workshops, but I do know that we all know that most of the developments that are springing up in Florida from coast to coast use the same plants. They don't necessarily use Florida native plants or Florida friendly plants, and everything pretty much looks the same. But I think people who own their own homes and like to garden and like to plant will avail themselves of books on how to garden and what grows best in Florida. And but I know a lot of them do because I've talked to a lot of people. But having a workshop is not a bad idea. I don't know how, I mean, I don't know who it would go out to, but what do you think, Catherine? Catherine?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, workshops, that's not a bad idea. I know there are a lot of resources here for people, newcomers, as well as, those, oh, that's good. Those of us
My daughter did that.
who have been here for quite a while. With Florida House, for example, I know the UF Extension offer, a lot of classes and programs. Florida House, speaking of which, my understanding is that Florida House is possibly going to be relocated from where it is on Beneva up to the Quad area near Celery Fields. And I'm not exactly sure the whole status of that, but at any rate. But there, and I don't know, well, Donna's not at this Zoom gathering, but she might know. Well, Meg, how about to the Master Gardeners? Are there workshops ever put out there for people in regard to the best way to landscape, your property?
There are workshops, primarily concentrating on, as Grace said, Florida-friendly plants. But the native plants are becoming on people's radar finally, as well as mine. In the last 3 years, I've really gotten educated on native plants. And just FYI, a field trip might be up to the Sweet Bay Nursery in Parish, which is probably the best native plant nursery around. And there's a woman up there by the name of Pam Callender that I've made an acquaintance with through a project that we're working on in the Osprey Junction Trailhead, which is the future visitors center and property on Bay Street in Osprey. And so I guess I'm kind of talking around your question, but right now the push is really on native plants. And one of the objections to native plants in the past to homeowners are they're messy, they're not pretty, they don't look good all year round. And that's a consideration, they have to be attractive and appealing. With that said, Pam has shown me pictures of designs that she's done for quite lovely homes using natives. And I was really surprised, quite frankly. And I'm going to stop talking in a minute. But as we speak, I'm in the process of creating a wildflower garden. It's going to be a demonstration garden at the future visitor center on Bay Street. It's just past where you take the entrance to Pine View down there. Anyway, that's enough.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate your input.
I see Catherine Oglesby is here. Hello, Catherine.
I am here.
Oh, hi.
How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. I just want to add, this is more global than local and individual, but I've noticed lately that a lot of publications who have, been supportive of the cause through their journalism are doing kind of a retrospective now on how far I guess if you can call it a movement, has come over the past 20 years. And I find that very interesting. Somewhat distressingly, it's losing momentum and losing, the punch that it had, I guess, during the years that it was being made. That the urgency of it was being made, very clear and very graphically in some cases. But I'm finding it very helpful to go back and look at the different ways that that the public's response to it, has changed over the years. I know that the New Yorker is is doing that. It has a whole staff dedicated to the subject. And of course, the New York Times, and it's, I think once a week or maybe twice a week, it publishes a climate forward that is very helpful to see, where things are all over the world, and of course in this country too. But the most recent things that I've read on our individual footprint is probably everybody on here is, would make an A on that score. It seems that the chief problem is so much bigger than our individual footprints, our individual. But of course, we have to look at our individual footprints, and that's our responsibility, and that's my reason for joining BEST is to see how are we doing that at the level of the church, and I think that's to be an example in that regard. BEST is doing a very good job, I think, of that.
Judy?
Yeah, Amy, I think Amy and Bob have their hand up. Yeah.
Suzanne Gregory as well at one
I
point.
saw her, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know how many of you had NPR on this morning before you started, but a very interesting weekend item was about the loss of insects worldwide and how tremendously important they are. And those of us who went to the honeybee talk became extremely aware of it with the bees, but this was really interesting about just general insects and how tremendously important they are for the rest of the wildlife that depends on them. And the big problem about spreading, the widespread use of pesticides. And they were, of course, bringing up the fact that the United States does that tremendously and other countries do not. But those of us who don't like having the bugs around us have to be very aware that those bugs are very necessary. I know when we see the little snakes slither by, we keep saying, keep eating those bugs. And it's really important to realize that all of these little creatures have a job to do. And I was just going to say that years ago, Bob and I went to some presentations, I believe with the Cooperative Extension, and also at Florida House, they had demonstrations about native plants and things that we should try to put in. But as you say, a lot of them are not real pretty and they just don't last, and we keep planting things that we like. And we do need, Meg, we need to learn from you.
Thanks, Amy. Suzanne, there's two Suzannes up. Suzanne with an S is next.
Yes, thank you. I'm Suzanne Allen. Since I'm new, I had a question. What is the Florida House?
No, the Florida House?
Yes.
Well, it's changed its direction in the past years, I believe. Catherine, you know about it as well. It's now an area where it's a learning center for environmental planting. They're doing a wonderful job, and we went there a couple of years ago, and it had changed its direction slightly. Before it was just about Florida and plants on Florida, but now they really are directing education to groups or schools or I don't know, individuals on planting, and most of it is Florida native and fruits and vegetables as well. Catherine?
Could I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Florida House is completely green. So it's also become a showcase for, solar, water efficient plumbing, using different building materials that are green, eco-friendly. It's a wonderful resource. And also students go there to learn, I think, to do like internships, that sort of thing. but it's a wonderful resource. And I know some people are concerned about having it be relocated up to the quad because it's played a big role, in this part of the county, or maybe it would be better leave this one here and start another Florida house, up towards celery fields. But
Where is it now?
it's on Beneva. Pretty much, it's just a little north of the intersection of Proctor and Beneva. It's near the tech school, Suncoast. Same side, just a little bit north of that.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's really great.
thank you very much.
Suzanne, you're next. Suzanne Gregory.
There was something else I wanted. Can you hear me?
A little more.
No? Okay. I have a microphone problem.
Okay, we can hear you slightly, at least I can.
Slightly? Hold on.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
To piggyback regarding the Florida house, when it started 25 years ago, it was the first green demonstration building, to what Catherine talked about,
Yeah.
that used sustainable practices in the building itself. So obviously in 25 years, the practices have changed and evolved. I mean, heck, we have solar on our house here, only in the last 10 years. So they now come under an organization called South Face. And I'm pretty sure if you look at their website, it's South Face, SOUTHFACE.org. And that'll tell you sort of what it is. And I know, but they're thinking of moving it. And I don't have a comment on that. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. All I know is it's a change, right?
Yeah.
But what I wanted to mention, kind of piggybacking what Amy talked about, pesticides. The other piece of this is, in our own personal yards, is giving up our love affair with green grass. Because green grass only is green because of fertilizers. And that goes not only into the water, and that's part of the problem. It's the runoff that's exacerbating red tide and that kind of a thing. It's our bad habits. So I know if you live in a gated community or a community where they take care of the common lawns, it's hard for you to tell them how to do it differently, but you could probably advocate for different practices, less fertilizer. There may be, I'm no grass expert, but I see the grass guys coming through my neighborhood and taking care of some people's lawns. That and excessive water is used to keep the grass green. And, so anyway, that's my little bandwagon. I'll just make a statement about that. That's all I wanted to bring up. Oh, one more thing. I was thinking that maybe Best can be a resource. We were talking about new parishioners coming. So maybe it would be great if you could host somebody from Florida, from the extension to come, or Meg, to talk about gardening. But you could also create maybe some kind of a card with just a list of digital sites for people who are new to the area and might want more information about Florida-friendly gardening, best practices for maintaining their own personal homes. So that's my bandwagon, and I'm done. Thank you.
Great. Very good. Duly noted.
Rita is up next.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. This was all that I hoped for and more. Thank you. I want to throw something out there to the group and get your reaction. A book that really affected me is a book called Spiritual Ecology. And the premise of that book is that we can't really correct what is happening to our planet unless we are willing to give up the idea that man has dominion over the earth, that we don't own it, that it is not our inexhaustible resource, but that we are simply co-creators with it. And it seems to me, when I think of politicians, when I think of individuals, myself included, to shift that paradigm that I am superior, that man is superior to what earth is, takes an awful lot. And I'm not sure how achievable that actually is. So I would just throw that out there for reaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick? Rick is next.
Yes, good morning. Having lived in Tucson for almost 20 years and having lived in two different neighborhoods with two different houses where we were not allowed to have grass. You could have grass by your pool, but you couldn't have any grass in the front. So we had a third of an acre and we didn't have any grass. We put in our own xeriscape system. I put in there my own watering system. I had 7 different lines. And that was a big project, but we tend to forget there's a lot that we can do without doing big projects, a lot. I just moved into a new place, gonna have a blessing by Nikki next week. And I went to management last week and I said, I have a grass a lot, like most people here. I asked them if I could take the grass out and can I put in a semi-desert landscape of native Arizona plants. And they said they would be happy for me to do that because it's going to cut down on the water and it's going to cut down on the mowing. So I haven't started yet, but that's one of my next projects. And there's a local firm, and a local organization, and I can't remember who it is, but if you research native Southwest Florida plants, there are several resources in the city and the county to which you can go. One of which is they will help you design a little yard or a bed or whatever. So, and the other thing is I'm going to try to start in this area. I'm going to try to start our division, our homeowners association to get us to compost. So much of what we do goes into landfill. Over 15% of what goes into landfill is food, by the way. So we could shop more carefully. We could budget more carefully with food and probably save a lot of money. And all that compost doesn't have to go into landfill. I don't know if I'm right about this, but this has been my attitude for about 15 years. I figure the sanitation department knows a lot about how to get rid of organic waste. So I don't throw out a lot. I put it through the disposal and I put a lot of stuff in the disposal. I end up with my garbage is about 1 little bag a week because I just don't throw things like banana peels and orange and that kind of thing. Goes down the drain, goes through the composter, and I'll let the sanitation people deal with it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good.
Betsy and Vince?
Actually, it's a twofer, but Vince, I just wanted to say something before Vince speaks. To your comment, Rita, something that I have read recently is an awareness that the translation of dominion over the earth is probably more accurately translated as stewardship of the earth, not domination of the earth. And I think for too long we've clung to the erroneous translation. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Also, I wanted to commend what you all are doing with BEST. You were pointing out some of the things that are happening to repair the damage that has been done to the earth. And every month you all have in the St. Boniface newsletter your green tip, and it's so much better if we can not do the damage in the first place. So thank you for your organization's work in educating us to not make the mistakes so we don't have to repair them. It's a long haul.
Yeah, this is Vince. Just taking off on what Rick said, but on a more closer to home level, we talked maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Grace, about getting rid of the grass on the campus at Boniface and making Boniface more of a showplace, not only for our members, newcomers, but anybody in Siesta. I can't say we become a California, or excuse me, a Sarasota house, but make an effort to try to create something more visible to our community and to our church. So that's just a thought, and I still think it would be a great thing to do.
Cool. I recall that very clearly. I think we went so far as to have particular plans for certain areas, and even the color of certain native plants or Florida-friendly plants that would be enhancing the area. I'm really not quite sure, Catherine, why, I don't know if it was higher ups or what, but we could have started small, but I think Bess was all for it, so.
Yeah, we didn't really get anywhere with it. You know, there's an area that used to be grass and then not grass and used to, and not, and it's right behind, if you park in the parking lot that's toward the back, abuts with the playground back there, and then you can just walk from your car over and go into Parish Hall, you know, make a left into the, right, that area back there, the grass, it's a wasteland and it's a real eyesore. And, you know, there've been problems with irrigation and whatnot. And Betsy, it's right near where a lot of your retirement plants were planted. But it would be nice if something could be done with that section just as a place to start. Because grass just isn't working there. And, you know, it's a sizable piece. It's not enormous, but, you know, maybe something could be done there to, you know, get more Florida friendly in there, do away with the grass, find a different way to use that little parcel.
I'm sorry, I'm on a different computer and I can't find how I'm supposed to hold my hand up. This is just to address the issue that Rita brought up and which comes about out of reading the book Spiritual Ecology. I think that you don't have to go far to find really good ideas about ways to reduce your carbon footprint. And it's wonderful for Best to, you know, like really be up on the latest ways to do that. But if we don't, for me, what's really important is to find the intersection of spirituality and ecological justice and pursue that as because we're part of a church. I mean, there are a lot of people, secular people who are, you know, who are giving their lives and all of their energy to this issue. But I'm reading now a lot on this particular intersection and how people in all religions, not just Christianity, but right now I'm looking at Christianity. But I would really like to explore that. This church has one of the most successful book groups I've ever known of. And I would like to see the subject of, excuse me, spirituality and ecology. I wish we could explore that as a people committed to this cause and look at ways that our spiritual energy and spiritual knowledge and spiritual practices can address this subject at a different level, perhaps. I'm not sure if that's clear what I'm saying, but I'm not the person to head that group, but I really think that it would be a wonderful addition to what Best is already doing, which is a lot of doing, and that's wonderful, and I want to be a part of that. But maybe Rita could tell us from reading Spiritual Ecology, because it's packed full of suggestions for other readings, you know, to make a difference at that level, as well as exploring what we can actually do. But I think what Rita said about human exceptionalism, that's so deeply embedded in us that just being aware of it is not enough to really unroot it. And So anyway, you all look like a bunch of animal lovers. So it's not going to be hard for us, as hard for us as it is for other people. But that's my 2 cents worth about that suggestion on Rita's part, that it's bigger than what we can do as individuals. So
Stephanie, thank you. This
I don't
was
see any
John
hands
Wyndham.
up, so
Oh, go ahead.
I'll just comment on that if I can. Yeah, that's the reason I threw that all out, because you know, I know the things that we try to do personally, you know, we use as little plastic as we possibly can, those kinds of things. And yet, when I was reading this, it occurred to me that there is that, I like the way you said that, Catherine, that intersection of where we understand this. It is not just doing, but it really is a change in a concept of man's relationship with Earth and where that comes from. And certainly one of the things is going back to what I call the ancients, the indigenous people who truly lived in harmony with the Earth, total harmony with the Earth. And in the ways that we destroyed those cultures and went headlong into this dominion over the Earth, I think that's how we seriously injured our planet, hopefully not beyond repair. But I agree with you. I think that, and maybe I see it more as part of an adjunct to what BEST is doing, to besides the doing of changes, to maybe not just a workshop on what kind of plants to have, but a workshop on what it means to be co-creator of the Earth on a spiritual level, what that means for us, and how to do that. And if you give me 1 minute, I'll hold up the book for those of you who don't know what Catherine and I had referred to. Excuse me.
While Rita's getting the book, one thought is that while this might be a book for the Sunday morning book group, there isn't any reason, if there are people interested, that another group couldn't be formed, study book group, that would be dealing more with the spiritual issues in ecology.
So the book is called Spiritual Ecology, The Cry of the Earth. And actually it's a series of essays. It's not a new book. This is the second edition of it. Its editor is Llewellyn Vaughan Lee. And the essays are from an incredible array of people: Richard Rohr, Orrin Lyons, Wendell Berry, Joanne Mason, some of the biggest names in ecology and spirituality. So it addresses that interface that that Catherine referred to. So it might be something of interest to people. I think everybody on this Zoom call has an interest in this topic, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And so you just might want to check this out. And if I can bear to part with our copy, I will donate it to the library, but don't hold your breath. And one last thing, I'd like to ask Steve Graham, since Steve has moved now to another country, what are you seeing in Mexico as compared to what we see here? If I can ask Steve to kind of comment on that.
And what do you mean, what I see here as far as landscaping or what? You're on mute.
Just in general, the whole area of attitude toward climate change.
So I don't talk to a lot of the locals around here. We are building a lot, and that has apparently led to last year they had, so rainy season starts June 15th, about mid-June to about the 1st of October. And last year in late September, there was a very long, heavy rain that started landslides, and it took out some homes, and went all the way down to putting mud on the carretera, or the highway. And so the amount of building, I think, has affected drainage, of course, but there's no big master plan of drainage when people just build their own homes and they try to take care of it themselves. In front of my house, there was a way for the water to drain and go out to the lake after rain, and it got clogged up, and I had, well, at 7 o'clock, I could have a foot and a half of water on my street, and it would be gone by 9 o'clock. I just gave $100 or 2,000 pesos to a local group who is trying to dig all that out, make sure that it goes to the culverts, and take away a bridge across the culvert so that it can flow out. So we have to do it ourselves. There's no cooperation, or very little cooperation, from the municipality about what we do. Other than that, there's a lot of gringos here. So I see a lot of beautiful lawns inside the gates. I myself had two patches of grass, because I had a dog. And but there's not long, big front yards of green grass that people never use, like in the United States, that people just build a wall around their place and then have a nice place for their own self. So I don't know if that answers your question. I am not connected enough with the locals to know if they are concerned. My thought would be they're just trying to make it day by day economically, and they don't have time to concern themselves with making vast amounts of land that they don't use pretty for other people to see. I wish I knew more. I'm sorry.
Great to see you, Steve.
Thank you. Good to see you, Grace.
Miss you.
Rita, can you give us the spelling on the editor's name?
Yes, it's Llewellyn, Llewellyn, Vaughn, Vaughan -Lee, Lee.
Thank you.
And there, as I said, this is the second edition, and this came out. Get into the page here. The second edition was printed in 2016. The fourth printing was in 2021. Thank you. Grace has got it up.
Oh, this is just the Llewellyn, edited by Llewellyn Vaughn -Lee, and it's a group of essays, as Rita says. It's really good. I'm going to order it right now on Amazon. It's great. It is on Amazon. So it's called Spiritual Ecology: The Cry of the Earth. Ugh. Second edition.
Thank you,
Grace. I got it.
Yeah, I have.
I'm going to order it as well. I just wanted to say thank you. This was enlightening for me. I did go to Florida House for a couple of classes when I first came to Florida, but never continued. But it is a concern when we look around us and see everything is changing. All the buildings are going up, the trees are being cut down to build homes, which I know we have to have somewhere to live. But it does not seem to me as though these builders, these developers are really doing very much to help the cause of the environment. And maybe as the church, we need to do as much as we can to enlighten others. That's all I had to say. I don't really know very much about it, but I felt I had to say that because
You're right.
it's close to my heart. Thank you.
Well, one thing about planting things on Siesta Key, we lived on the Key for 5 years. And Siesta Key is a barrier island. It's a sandbar, and it's really difficult to grow things there without a lot of water and fertilizer and whatever. There's no rich soil there anywhere. Actually, Florida's pretty much of this bog anyway. But so, when people invest a lot of money to fix up things there, it's the same story we've been saying. You're using too much water. It's like beating a dead horse. But okay, I agree with you. I've got a lot of books here. This one is called Saving Florida. And this is by Leslie Kemp Poole. And we had invited her to be our speaker for Creation Sunday before we got David Owen. And she is an assistant professor in the Environmental Studies Department at Rollins College. And this is a wonderful book. It's a women's fight for the environment in the 20th century. It's a great book. So, Best has a section in our church library. And I can certainly bring these books in and do this one is a lovely one on gardening by Margaret Roach, The Backyard Parables. And she is a lovely writer. And I mean, this is just, they're so different. This one, The Lab Girl. This one is a story of trees, science, and love. And the importance of trees is paramount. And I was going to do a little bit about Matthew Sleeth, who I know some of you might have heard him through the days when we were locked down and stayed home and were careful about everything. And he spoke, I believe he was up at Dayspring. Anyway, he spoke, Matthew Sleeth. And he spoke on how he was a doctor and how he became a minister and so interested, he's Episcopalian and so interested in the earth, especially the trees. And he has a book out. I don't know where my book's gone. That book, it's called Reforesting Faith. And he ties in trees and faith. That is a terrific book. I don't know what I did with it. Anyway, here's another one. This is the Plant Hunter. This is a scientist's quest for nature's next medicines. So, what goes around comes around. In the early days, there were a lot of people who relied on nature for their healing properties. And I think it's coming around to that. And this one, The Nature Fix. There's tons of books. This one is Why Nature Makes Us Happier, Healthier, and More Creative. These things are so refreshing to read. Just gives you a lift. I'm going to find Matthew Sleeth's book. That is really good. But I can bring these into the library.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, did you have your hand up for a minute?
I did. I was just going to say that the Spiritual Ecology is also on Kindle.
Oh, wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Enjoyed it, everybody.
Jennifer, where are you?
Aren't I here?
Yeah, you're there.
I don't see you. Oh, there you are.
This is Matthew Sleeth's book, Reforesting Faith.
Reforesting Faith, yeah. have it in the other room.
He's a leader in the evangelical movement for combating climate change.
Very good, thank you. Rita, I think we're coming towards the end of our time. Do you want to give us a heads up on coming attractions? I didn't bring that up today.
We will do that, but Vince has his hand raised first, so
Oh,
we'll do
Vince,
that.
go ahead,
Right
I'm
after
sorry.
Vince. You're on mute, Vince.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's Betsy's Mac. I'm not sure what to do with it.
Oh, okay.
Just a comment, something that Catherine said earlier, a book group concept. I think that would be a wonderful thing to try to. I mean, one of the challenges is always who will come.
Right.
If you don't at least put your foot out there and give it a try, you'll never know. And I was just listening to the list of books that Grace has read and loves. It seems like there's a huge library of books that maybe we can educate each other in what this is all about and offering it as a book group within the church. It doesn't have to be the Sunday book group, which is, I mean, mostly spiritual. I'm not saying that wouldn't fit, but this seems like it's spiritual, but also focused on ecology.
Maybe
So,
But I don't think you can separate it anymore. I think, and what I would love to find is a way to articulate that intersection and to understand what is our responsibility as people of faith, you know, to approach this problem. It's more than a problem.
I am more than willing to add that to the book list. I mean, we as a group, we're pretty wide open to anything that has to do with spirituality. Maybe we'll give that a try next time. There's some of the folks on the book group right here with us, so
yeah,
I'm not seeing any negative looks from them. I see smiles. So good idea, Catherine.
So before we sign off, thanking all of you for being here, I do want to give you a glimpse into future Zooms. This second Saturday Zoom seems to work for so many of us to do it, and it will be ongoing. So the next one coming up actually in June is Vince Brennan, who's going to be talking to us about how to use digital devices to enhance our spiritual life. In July, we will have Deacon Elise Hansen, who will talk to us about how art has shaped and sometimes misshaped our spiritual sense. In August, the Men of Mob, the Men of Boniface, will be sharing with us spiritual friendship and how that has worked for them over time. We also have coming up in the future John Garisto, who will talk to us on what it means to be healed. And Donna Conyers will be also sharing with us why spirituality is so important to good health. So those are just some of the things. And we have a couple of really interesting people who are also in the pipeline that we need to pray about. I think they're very much meant to speak here, but they need to hear the Spirit talk to them and not just read it. So you can keep that in your prayers. But I thank you all. Once again, the conversation here is just really Spirit-led and Spirit-filled. And I thank you all for participating. So I one last personal thing. Michael's surgery is May 25th. So please keep him in your prayers and keep me in my prayers. Keep him in your prayers, not for the surgery. Keep him in your prayers because the wife/nurse caretaker is running out of patients, and that really impacts him. So just offer us both up. We appreciate that. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Well, everyone, it's been wonderful to have you with us.